Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Azka, SS English. A very warm welcome to the online classes of Divisional Public School and Inter College Sahiwal. I hope you all are fine. In this lesson, we would learn how to convert active voice into passive voice for past indefinite tense. Let's discuss the objectives first. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to differentiate between active and passive voice, explain the sentence pattern both in active and passive voice using past indefinite tense, and convert given sentences from active to passive. Dear students, first of all, a question comes in our mind: what is a voice? When a sentence is written, it can either be written in active voice or in passive voice. Active voice is used when the subject performs the action and we want to give more importance to the subject rather than object. For example, Amna plucked flowers. In this sentence, Amna is the subject and it is actively doing the action and it is not passive at all. On the other hand, in passive voice, subject comes in the end, which means it only receives the action. So, in active voice, the subject actively performs the action, but in passive voice, it only receives the action. Subject is given priority in active voice, but object is given priority in passive voice. If we observe the formation structure, you would see how changes take place while converting active voice into passive voice. In active voice, we follow traditional grammatical structure. Subject comes first, then we use second form of verb since we are working upon simple past tense or past indefinite tense. And lastly, we write an object. So the sentence is Amna plucked flowers. But when we convert it into passive voice, object comes in the beginning and subject comes at the end. Secondly, we use a helping verb in accordance with the subject. Means we use singular helping verb with a singular subject and plural helping verb with a plural subject. Thirdly, we use third form of verb. It is an extremely important point. No matter either the tense is past, present, future, either it is simple, continuous or perfect, always use third form of verb in passive voice. After third form of verb, we write by, and lastly we write subject of active voice. So the passive voice is flowers were plucked by Amna. In passive voice, flowers are given more importance than Amna. In this way, you can convert active voice into passive voice. Dear students, for your better understanding, I've added a more examples. Have a look how conversion takes place while converting active voice into passive voice. In active voice, we have an example. Ali wrote a biography and the passive voice is a biography was written by Ali. They painted the walls and the passive voice is the walls were painted by them. It was all about affirmative sentences. Remember this structure since it will help you a lot in converting other types of sentences as well. Now we would learn how to convert negative sentences. We all know that a negative sentence states that something is not true or invalid. For example, Ali did not write a biography and they did not paint the wall. The passive voice is a biography was not written by Ali, the wall was not painted by them. You can see that the basic structure is the same. The only difference between affirmative and negative sentences is that we simply write not after helping verb, either it is was or were. Rest of the structure is the same. In this way you would convert negative sentences. Let's move forward. Now we would learn how to convert interrogatives into passive voice. Interrogative sentences simply ask a question. For example, did Ali write a biography? Was a biography written by Ali? Did they paint the walls? Were the walls painted by them? If you analyze the formation structure, you would come to know that there are two major changes. Firstly, instead of writing helping verb either was or were after subject, we wrote it before subject. And secondly, we put a question mark at the end since we are working upon a question. In this way, you would be able to convert interrogative sentences for past indefinite tense. The next type of sentence is negative interrogative. Negative interrogative is used when the speaker expects a particular answer. It is basically a combination of negative and interrogative. For example, did Ali not write a biography? And the passive voice says, was a biography not written by Ali? The next example is, did they not paint the walls? Were the walls not painted by them? The difference between interrogative and negative interrogative is that we simply add not after the object. Rest of the structure remains the same. The next type of sentence is double interrogative. As it is evident from the name, there are two interrogations or questions in double interrogative. We simply use how and any W words like why, when, where, or what according to the suitability. Rest of the structure remains the same. For example, when did Ali write a biography? And the passive voice is, when was a biography written by Ali? The next is, how did they paint the walls? And the passive voice is, how were the walls painted by them? The last type of sentence is who sentence. It is used to inquire about the subject, so the structure is totally different. For example, who wrote a biography? By whom was a biography written? The next example is who painted the wall, and the passive voice is by whom were the walls painted? Dear students, since we have inquired about the subject, who is used in active voice but by whom is used in passive voice. The point to remember is that always use helping verb next to by whom, not after the object. For example, I wrote was before biography, not after it, and I wrote were before the walls, not after it. Dear students, I've designed an exercise for you and you are supposed to convert these sentences into passive voice. The answers will be shared in WhatsApp groups once you try to find them. Let's review this lesson quickly. First of all, we discussed formation structure of simple past tense both in active voice and in passive voice. We learned that subject is given priority in active voice but object is given priority in passive voice. Secondly, we learned that we should always use third form of verb in passive voice. Then we learn how to convert different types of sentences. Either they are affirmative, negative interrogative, double interrogative, or who sentences into passive voice. And lastly, I shared an exercise to check your understanding. I'm done with this lesson. I hope that you have learned the proposed concept. It's Azka Ghulam signing off. Allah Hafiz.